All right, it's starting recording. Okay, welcome everyone to the FMD Invoice Submittal training. So we're going to go over the agenda really quick, like what we're going to present here. So we're going to talk about like the change, why we made the change. I'm going to turn it over to Steve. He's going to talk about the receipt of goods. Also the invoice process. We're going to talk about some of the unique processes. Because that's going to be big. Not everything is going to be submitted through the FMD Invoice Tracking Database. So there's going to be some unique things. So look out for that. And then we're going to turn it over to Ubong Atta, who's going to talk about how to submit through the database. And then he'll also talk about reports. And then I'm going to end it off with talking about some of the contacts and resources. And then I'll go into kind of our pages where you can find them. And then we'll open it up to question and answers. So kind of the change in process. So this has been a long time coming. IT really helped us out, accounting, because we moved into the pandemic and a lot of folks were teleworking. Back then, we decided we needed to do something that was a little bit simpler for everyone, because you're at home, we're not getting the mail, so we're moving to more emails and e-signatures when it came to the invoice process. So we wanted to develop a system where you could kind of submit and then track everything. So with this, we wanted to. Well, some of our goals was we wanted to have electronic submittal. We wanted to prevent a lot of the duplicate invoices that we were getting. And we wanted to give programs real-time tracking of your invoices from start to finish. So, so now you'll see when it gets to intake, and then when it gets to the receiving unit, and also now when it gets to accounting and when they finally pay it. Because we're getting a lot of questions like, oh, where's our invoice at? So we wanted to help eliminate some of that and give you guys the ability to see where your invoices are in the process. So I will turn it over to Steve to go ahead and talk about receipt of goods. So Steve, can I move?
All right, thank you, Matt. All right, we're going to be talking about right now the receipt of goods and services. Click the next page, please.
I'm at the slide, Steve.
I'm seeing this 4. There we go. Thank you. The receipt of goods and services, it's all from the State Contracting Manual, Volume 2 of Chapter 10. It discusses receiving, inspection, acceptance testing, and acceptance or rejection. Each department determines the process and whether or not the goods received are acceptable and conform to all the terms and conditions of the purchase document. B&B ITD procurement will provide the following. For goods and service authorizations, program will receive 1 copy of the red stamp fiscal PO. ITD may use a separate memo or letter for a red stamp. For service contracts, program will receive 1 copy of the executed standard 213 form and 1 copy of the red stamp fiscal PO. Kind of getting a delay on my screen.
I'll click back and click back in.
Want me to take over, Steve?
I can't see page. I don't see page 6 well.
Okay. The receipt of goods and services process. So receiving is the act of taking possession of the goods or accepting services. Inspecting is the act of examining goods and services to ensure conformance to the purchase order. Acceptance testing, the act of testing equipment or ensuring product or services are in proper condition and completed. Acceptance, approving fiscal PO. So you have your partial received goods. Your fiscal PO item must be highlighted and received amount added as text with the invoice date. Services POs with multiple line items. Highlight on the fiscal PO the particular service line item and add the dollar amount as text, no tax. Signing the red stamp. Note once signed, hold until the invoice arrives. All right, so this is a copy, or this is a picture of the red stamp. Invoice approval process. Step 1, invoices received via mailroom. The mailroom staff will date stamp envelope to establish receive date for prompt payment act. Programs should also date stamp when they receive the invoice from the mailroom. Via email, programs should convert the email and invoice to a PDF in order to upload into the FMD Invoice Tracking Database. Email date establishes the official receive date. Step 2, review the invoice. You have 5 calendar days to submit. Ensure that a properly authorized purchase document is in place. Products and or services were received or performed. The invoice had not previously been paid. Sufficient funds to cover the invoice, and there's a complete B&B invoice package checklist. Invalid invoices, see page 12 for invoice dispute.
I think I'm good now. I got it from here, Ubong. Thank you.
No problem.
The invoice tracking database is set up so we no longer have to mail in your invoice. The process is listed but rarely used anymore. So we highly encourage that vendors email their invoices electronically. It's not switching for me.
All right. All right, Steve, I'll take over. All right, proper invoice requirements. So review your invoice and ensure that the following is correct. So invoices billed to the department must be an invoice. It should say invoice on it. We don't want to receive packing slips or a bill of lading. So just when you're looking at your what you want to submit, just double check to make sure it says invoice on it, and you'll see an invoice number associated with it. Invoices should have the vendor's name and address. The invoice should have, like I was saying, the invoice number. No duplicate invoices, and we're hoping with this new system it'll stop. It'll tell you when you have submitted a duplicate, and then you can stop the process. Invoices identify the procurement number, the fiscal PO number on the invoice, and then the invoice must match the PO exactly. The invoice is itemized. It should have a description of goods and items, quantity, and then it should be listed and matched with the PO. Sales taxes only if applicable. So the exceptions to this are going to be your service POs, and sales tax do not have to match because you're going to have a PO at times when it comes to services that it could be a blanket, it could be $1,000, but you're going to be billed monthly. So you could be billed $30 or $50, but your PO is not going to show the monthly cost so those are okay. Proper invoice requirements. The invoice amount should be accurate. The math should work on that. We have seen it at times where you've submitted the invoice actually doesn't calculate out properly. So double check that, make sure that the math works. Identify your index in PCA. Multiple index PCA combinations should be clearly identified on the invoice. Include funding splits and percentages when necessary. So this is something new for our submittal process is all POs with trackable assets should be accompanied with a BMB10 or BMB B. The BMB10 is just a request for information. So what we would like, in the past, you guys were writing the serial numbers if there was assets on the PO or it would be on the invoice. But now, if you can, fill out the information on BMB10. So we're talking serial number, location, user, things like that, because that'll help us, because now with this new flow process in the database, what happens is when it goes into receiving, Steve actually inputs the serial numbers, right? And then that'll flow over into asset management. And also with this new database, the copy of the PO, the BMB10 will also flow to the asset manager. So he can input like the location and some of all these other items into the asset management WASP. So complete that form and include it as part of your invoice package. Now on the BMB10, there are some instructions, and the easy way to find out if you have a trackable asset is look on the PO, you'll see asset information down by the line item. So if you see that, then that means you need a BMB10. So ensure the fiscal PO is marked partial receipt of goods. Please highlight any partials, especially identify the quantity and the invoice date. So please highlight that. That helps us. And then service POs with multiple line items. Highlight and include dollar amounts per line item. And then one of the new things is we do have a checklist that'll help you guys when you're looking at your invoice or you're receiving to kind of identify, okay, did I take these steps in order before submittal? And I'll show you where that is at. So continuing the invoice process, step 3, signature approval of the invoice. The program signs and dates both the red stamp fiscal PO and the invoice. Now refer to AB 1903 for signature authorization guidelines, the accounting 13. Not everyone can sign invoices, so you should have a accounting 13 on file. We'll accept an electronic signature. Program returns signed, dated red stamp fiscal PO along with approved invoice to BMB receiving unit. Keep the envelope with the received date. Step 4, submit invoice package through the FMD Invoice Tracking Database. And then step 5, BMB receiving unit will create a receipt in fiscal and then forward it to accounts payables within 5 calendar days. And then step 6, accounting, accounts payable staff have to process the vouchers and pay the invoice within 15 calendar days. All right, to talk about invoice disputes. So the receipt of an invalid or incorrect invoice, you have 15 days upon receipt of this. So program will contact the vendor immediately, explain the error or the problem, request a corrected invoice. So note the date and time. The payment clock stops when you do this because we want to not build up late payment penalties. So if you can't resolve the problem with the vendor within 5 days, then accounting suggests that you start the invoice dispute notification, so the STD 209. And you'll find this form on accounting's intranet page, and you'll also find it on the forms page. Once the valid invoice is received and you're okay to process it, attach the 209 because accounting will need this and we'll need this. So that will be part of your supplemental documents along with the new invoice. So we have some videos that we wanted to show you, and I'm going to start them up. They're videos on how to use the electronic signature process and how to teach you the partial receiving. And then we'll go into like a stamp for your invoices since we're moving to electronic. And we'll post these videos onto the internet page so you'll have a reminder. So I'll get started and play the first video for you guys.
This training video will help provide you how to electronically sign and edit a purchase order in Acrobat Reader DC once goods and or services are received. Locate your PDF version of the PO with the red stamp. Make sure you have the latest Adobe Acrobat DC. If you do not have the latest Adobe, please contact the IT help desk to get the updated version. Either the top toolbar or right sidebar, locate and select the pen icon that says Fill and Sign. After selecting the pen, a new toolbar with a Sign Yourself icon will appear. Select your digital signature or add a digital signature if no signature is available. With your mouse, select and drag your signature over the signature line of the red stamp. Next, fill in the date received by clicking on the date received line and typing in the date. Your mouse arrow should change into text filling once you click on the line. Click on Print Name and type your name. Save the document for your records. Click on the Save button on the top left of the screen. Save the PO for your invoice package. For partial receipt of goods or services, select the highlight icon on the top toolbar and highlight any partially received quantities. Select Edit PDF on your right sidebar. Select the Add Text on the top toolbar. Place your mouse arrow underneath the highlighted quantity. Click and start typing your received amounts. For example, if you ordered 2 items but only received 1, you will put 1 underneath the 2. Save the document for your records. Click on the Save button on the top left of the screen. Save the PO for your invoice package.
All right, and I will play the next video clip on utilizing a stamp.
This training video will help you utilize the Adobe Stamp feature to approve invoices for payment. Make sure you have the latest Adobe Acrobat DC. If you do not have the latest Adobe, please contact the IT help desk to get the updated version. Make sure your invoice is electronic, either scanned into PDF or open electronically using Adobe DC. Select the highlighter icon and highlight the following: your invoice number, your PO number, and your contract number if it's a service. In Adobe, click on Tools on your top toolbar to add the stamp feature. Go down to Share and Review. Click on the stamp icon. The stamp ribbon will show up. Click Stamp and click on the dynamic stamp. Choose Approved with date and timestamp. Move and drag stamp to an open area of the invoice. If you have a split funded invoice, go to the Edit PDF on your right sidebar. Select the Add Text icon. Move your mouse to an open area of the invoice and click. Write in the index PCA with the percentages of the split funding. Choose a different color other than black so it's identifiable. And this approved signature, it will replace actually signing it because it's an electronic approval. Now save the document for your records. Click on the Save button on the top left of your screen. Now save the invoice for your invoice package. This completes this training video.
All right. All right, back to the training. Hopefully that was helpful for everyone. And I think Steve's back, so let's test this out, Steve. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone, but let us get to the next slide. Is it working, Steve?
Yeah, here we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about some unique processes. Unique processes. The following are procurement types that have unique approval, receiving, and/or routing processes. One is emergency repairs made using a WEX card or a WEX card. Submit your invoices directly to accounts payable. Do not require a receipt to be created in Fiscal for payment. That's no change to program. OSP and PIA purchase, which is Office of State Publishing and Prison Industry Authority. B&B staff process the request and generate a Fiscal PO and place order an OSP or PIA online order system. B&B staff will distribute a Fiscal PO with a red Goods Services Received stamp and a copy of the OSP or PIA order to program. Once goods are received, sign and date the red Goods Services Received stamp on the PO and email the entire PO to the B&B receiving inbox. Accounting will provide the invoice to B&B to receive in Fiscal. OSP and PIA program will not receive an invoice as these are paid as direct billing or direct transfers. For auto repair or maintenance, submit invoices directly to accounts payable. Do not require receipt to be created in Fiscal for payment. Again, no change to program. Invoices for training classes. These are generally handled by HRMD or EBHQ, which is Enforcement Branch Headquarter Training Unit. Program to continue to route the HRMD or the EBHQ training unit along with the approved TER. Advanced payments, which are like subscriptions, transit vouchers, postage, event exhibits, rental, etc. Program submits to Admin 5 or Admin 1 to B&B along with the invoice or other payment document indicating prepayment required by vendor or the contractor. B&B staff will process the request, generating a Fiscal PO with a red prepayment stamp, create a receipt in Fiscal, and will forward the invoice to the revolving fund unit for advance payment. Reminder for services. If services are ongoing, program will make copies of the original red stamp fiscal PO when the reoccurring service invoice is received. Program will sign the copy of the red stamp fiscal PO and submit it with their invoice. So obviously we're going to send you an original purchase order with the red stamp on the bottom right corner on the first page. Obviously, if it's a blanket PO with multiple invoices coming in, just keep reusing that. Make a copy of your signed one, attach it to the invoice, and put it into our new database. An invoice package consists of properly approved original invoice, copy of entire red stamp fiscal PO signed and dated, other supporting documents, which may include a B&B 10, which is request for asset information, an approved TER if invoice is training related, envelope or email if received electronically, travel receipts if applicable, bill of lading if shipping is over $50. For submittal instructions, we will now be led by Ubong. Thank you, Ubong.
No problem, Steve. Good morning once again. All right, so with the new invoice tracking system, you start by logging in from the login screen. You'll input your username on the top line, which will be your last name, first initial. And on the second line for the password, you'll input your CDI login password. Okay, once you log in, you will see a screen that says FMD Invoice Tracking System. Click on the icon that says New Invoice with the red plus button above it. When the invoice form is opened, you will see a menu list of items that will need to be filled out. The full or partial, the PO line, which states whether it's a full or partial PO. The date the invoice was received by CDI, meaning the date it was stamped by the mailroom or email date received. The program contact, the person that is initiating the service. The fiscal PO number. The supplier or vendor. The invoice number. The invoice amount, which is the total amount of the invoice. The invoice date, whether it is an IT or non-IT good or service. Whether it has an asset, whether it does or does not have an asset attached. And finally, the location, and the location would be the headquarter closest to your physical location. So either LA, Sacramento, or Oakland. All right, once all information is input into the invoice form, you will receive a green notification indicating that a row has been created. All right. So for your document attachment, okay, attach the invoice package documents by clicking on the Add Attachment button. Browse your files and upload the appropriate documents. You will not be allowed to move forward in the process without attaching the documents. All right, check the box that confirms that the invoice package has been received and approved. Verify that the invoice and PO match. Once documents are verified, click the Submit to Intake button to complete the submission process. I must be getting a delay on my end as well. Yeah, I think I'm getting a delay.
Technical issues.
Always the person presenting, but it's okay.
Do you see it, Ubon? If not, I can go for
Yeah,
it.
still nothing.
All right, invoice submittal verification. This is just a message. If you completed all the steps prior, you'll get this message saying your submittal went through and it went along to intake. If you don't receive that message, then something went wrong, so go back. One of the things that might be an error is you didn't upload anything, so just keep that in mind. Invoice submittal will be complete. Once you're done and after you see that screen, you'll see down here the changes. You'll see that you'll see this timestamp. You'll see that it's been submitted and completed, and then it's going to its next step, which is intake. All right, rejected invoices. Now, there could be times where intake or receiving turns around the invoice package because it's possibly missing some information. So some of the reasons would be for being rejected, the invoice number was missing, but we'll also include like, okay, the invoice number information, who the action was performed by and why it was rejected, and the time. Once you have everything corrected, you just have to re-upload your revised invoice package and resubmit through the system. And then that'll take you back to slide 23. So now I want to go into reports. This section for you guys will be very helpful. It's where you can kind of track what's going on with your invoice. So right here, you see the invoice, how to start an invoice. Over to the right, you'll see the program invoice report. So now when we go into here, you'll be able to click on the action button. That'll allow you to get a drop down, which will tell you, do you want a primary report? The invoice is not sent to intake. So if you have still things that you didn't submit, it was just in your queue, you can get that list. And then any of the rejected invoices. So that's the way you can filter the report. And then you would use the search button to perform a search using the invoice number, which is right there. And then also you would, once that comes up and you find your invoice, just click on the pencil icon, and then that'll allow you to like edit and look at the invoice that you submitted. And then once you get that, you will see just all the listing of what's happened, all the changes that's occurred with the timestamp of where it's at. And then now contacts and resources. So currently for our B&B contacts, I have a vacancy for our procurement and business service section chief, but that is their number. They do handle the receiving. And then Christian Tonkin is our procurement and contracts manager over non-IT goods and services. And then Aaron Hewitt is our SSA over asset management. And then for IT procurement, we have Christina Cervantes. And then if you have any questions in regarding the invoice approval process or anything accounts payable, it's Gina Lee. And in this slide, eventually all the slides and everything will be on our B&B Academy page. But when you open up the slides, I do have hyperlinks for each one of our resources. So our B&B Academy page, that's where we're going to host any of these these trainings that we have for programs. You'll have the slides on there and the video recording that you can always go back to. So if I click on this hyperlink, it should take you to the page. And eventually, as you can see, we have this training already on here. We'll eventually put, the recording, but we also have supplemental documents that I forgot to mention in the beginning, but we have like some good examples of partially received invoices. And then we also have some errors, like when it comes to the math, not POs not matching. So this will give you some examples of what to look out for, and some good examples too. But if you're wondering how to get to our page, I know a lot of people have that question. So if you go to the home page, it's not easy, it's not intuitive to get to our BMB page. So I'll show you how to get there. You would go to inside CDI, ALSB, because that's the branch we're under. And then we do have a quick links where you'll see BMB right here. If you wanted to go the long way, always go through FMD, because that's our division. And then you'll see the FMD page, which has a link to our Accounting Services Bureau and also Business Management Bureau and budgets. So if you click on BMB, that'll take us to our homepage. And here you'll see that we have, all of our services. You'll see the BMB Academy. So we have some of our policies and procedures here. So if you have time, please take a look at it. It's a good way to find some information. But the invoice submittal and receiving will be here, and then just hit the learn more. And then you'll see we'll have everything here, just kind of like the receipts of good policy, our instructions for that, and the copy of the red stamp. This is where you'll find the portal to get into the database, which is right here in this icon. And then also we have our checklist right here. You can just click on that. And then here's where you'll find the BMB 10. You'll also be able to find the BMB 10 on the forms page. So reference that. There's a BMB 10 and a BMB 10B. The 10B is just the second page, because sometimes you tend to have a lot of assets on some POs. So if you need a second page, it's there. And then we have a flow chart on how the flow works for your reference. And we also have instructions on how to submit, but we also have a printable manual for how to, for these instructions too. So if you want to use this as a desk manual for you, you can just pull this up and it's there for you to print out and save. And then we also have a link to accounting's page. It should be in here too, right here for the accounting invoice approval process. Then we're still in development. We're looking at kind of creating possibly a BMB policies and procedures page.